Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a proposed change to Pakistan's constitution, the 27th Amendment. Now, I know it sounds like some dry legal document, right? But it's actually at the very center of a massive power struggle that could formally hand the keys to the country over to the military. This is a story about how informal power tries to become permanent. So this really gets us to the heart of the matter, the one question on everyone's mind. Is Pakistan actually heading for another military dictatorship? This isn't just idle chatter. The country's army chief is making moves to write his authority directly into law, and that's pushing a very fragile democracy right to the edge. To really wrap your head around this, you have to start with the man at the center of it all, General Asim Munir. Sure, Pakistan has a civilian prime minister, but he is widely, and I mean widely, seen as the one truly calling the shots. And this right here shows you exactly what that power dynamic looks like in the real world. Officially, you've got a prime minister, but in practice, it's General Munir you see out there on the world stage, shaking hands, negotiating these huge international deals. This isn't just for show, it's a crystal clear signal to everyone about where the real power in Pakistan lies. So the big question is, how do you take all that informal power and make it official? Well, that's where we get to the legal tool for this whole operation, the proposed 27th Amendment to Pakistan's constitution. What you need to know is that this amendment isn't about creating power out of thin air. Nope, it's about taking the enormous, behind-the-scenes power the military already wields and cementing it right into the Constitution, specifically under Article 243. This would literally elevate the army chief to a constitutional authority, basically putting him on par with the president. And when you break down what's in this amendment, it is just sweeping. First, it would give the president's command over the military directly to the army chief. Then you've got tenure. They're talking about making it a lifelong job. It also goes after the courts, aiming to weaken the judiciary. And finally, it hits the country's wallet by rerouting money from the provinces straight to the military. All of this begs a pretty obvious question. How on earth did the Pakistani military get powerful enough to even try a move like this? Well, to figure that out, you have to understand its deep, deep roots, and you have to follow the money. Just think about this for a second. For 33 of its almost 78 years as a country, Pakistan has been directly ruled by military dictators. In fact, no democratically elected prime minister there has ever, not once, completed a full 5-year term. This constant cycle of coups has created a system where the army has always been the final word. And this quote, wow, it says it all. In an interview, Pakistan's own defense minister was asked straight up, who's more powerful, the government or the army? And he couldn't give a straight answer. He called it a hybrid model. That's basically a public confession that the civilian government shares power with the military and, often comes in second place. But the military's real power, its real leverage, isn't just political, it's financial. Its economic empire is absolutely massive, with some estimates putting its net worth at a staggering $50 billion. Yeah, this isn't just an army, it's a giant corporation, often called military incorporated. It's into everything: real estate, banking, farming, even petrol stations. This economic self-sufficiency gives it an incredible amount of freedom from any civilian oversight. It lets them operate like a state within a state and push for huge changes like this one. And that control extends to the country's most critical assets. Just look at the contrast with neighboring India, where the intelligence agencies and the nuclear codes are under civilian control. In Pakistan, the powerful ISI spy agency and the nuclear arsenal are both commanded by the military. That gives them the ultimate trump card in any political fight. Okay, so it might sound like this is a done deal, right? Well, not so fast. Turning this amendment into law is going to face some serious political roadblocks, and the biggest one is in the upper house of parliament. See, passing a constitutional amendment is tough. The government needs a 2/3 majority in the Senate. That means 64 votes. And as you can see, right now, they just don't have the numbers. This gap is the main hurdle that could stop this whole thing right in its tracks. And the main wall of opposition is coming from the party of the jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. His PTI party is calling this exactly what it looks like, a final step towards a complete military dictatorship, and they have promised to fight it tooth and nail. All right, let's zoom out. Because this isn't just some internal Pakistani drama. Why should the rest of the region, and especially its neighbor India, be watching this so closely? Well, first, an officially empowered military leadership can mean a much more aggressive and unpredictable foreign policy. With the army chief constitutionally in charge, the chance for cross-border tensions could go way up. Second, it creates this huge diplomatic headache. I mean, who do other countries even talk to? If the civilian government is basically just for show, it makes any kind of negotiation or peace talk incredibly complicated. It creates the state of permanent uncertainty. And third, you have to think about the motivation here. A military that constantly needs to justify its massive budget and its grip on power might just be tempted to create problems so it can solve them. That could mean dialing up proxy wars or even manufacturing a border crisis, all to prove how essential it is. So, the fate of Pakistan's 27th Amendment, it's more than just a political fight. It's a defining moment that could completely reshape the country's future. It also throws a spotlight on the two very different paths taken in the subcontinent. And it leaves us with a really fundamental question. What's the right balance of power between civilians and the military, and what happens when that balance is broken for good?